medication, that ends up in the health record. And when we go to another place for a procedure, everything is there. What a great idea. It's happening. Integration with the devices, the things in healthcare is beginning to happen. Home health monitoring. Today, healthcare is 3% of healthcare is at home. It should be 30%. And technology is going to make that happen with this merger of the internet. Personalized medicine. I think healthcare IT may, in the fairly near future, be bigger than IT as we know it today. Just a comment on e-government and e-learning before I get into the highlights of the technology that I see ahead. I think we could be somewhat proud of our government in that, for the most part, up until now, they have resisted the temptation to regulate the internet. Unfortunately, recently, they've been pushed by various special interest groups to meddle. This is bad. This is totally against the concepts of the internet. We heard some commentary on this yesterday. I think our government is doing a good job in trying to open up the processes of government and make e-government a reality. Data.gov is an example. If you're not familiar with it, it's worth taking a look. Schools and libraries are going through a tremendous renaissance. Libraries are being constructed, new ones. Not to put books in them, though, or mostly not books. It's to have meetings. It's to have authors come speak with people. It's to have children have learning sessions. It's to have access to the internet. Where do people looking for a job go? Where do people that are trying to figure out their taxes go? To the library. And of course, lifelong learning via iPads and the web. I just snuck that iPad word into this slide because we saw a really big change on that last year. And was that a surprise? Of course not. So now I'd like to touch on the future of the internet as one person sees it. I use these 7 characteristics as just a way to parse the total opportunity, and I'll just hit the wave tops of the things that I see that I believe are most important. Let's start with fast. Well, the US is second in the world now in terms of the number of broadband users. China has leaped ahead of us. That's okay. But what's more disturbing is that the percentage of people in our country that have broadband is 28th. We're 28th in the world. And this is a matter of policy. And unfortunately, the FCC is a political entity, not a policy-making entity driven by the needs and wants of consumers. 15 years ago, when I spoke at the World Wide Web Consortium in Paris, the French had a really bad attitude about the internet. I won't elaborate. Today, the French are leaders. In France, for $90 a month, you can get 100 megabits. In the US, we consider broadband, it's actually defined as 256,000 bits per second. So we have a long way to go in this regard, and we have this issue of net neutrality where some operators might potentially want to make a deal with some content providers. That's okay, but they want to make it exclusive. You can't get to whatever.com unless you're a subscriber to whatever.isp. That's a really bad idea. Balkanization of the internet is the way I would describe it. Do we have the capacity to handle what's going on with the future of the internet? We get scared every once in a while, scare calls and speeches from operators that say that voice over the internet is going to bring down the internet. YouTube, it's going to crash the internet. Video, we don't have the capacity. Baloney. There's plenty of capacity. Dense wave division multiplexing, multiple colors of light and strands of fiber, smaller than a human hair. We have plenty of capacity in our optical backbone. Number 2, always on. Dial-up is pretty much gone, I think it's safe to say, and the world of everything connected to everything really changes a lot. Literally everything can be connected. The local area network in our home will have everything connected, and all these things are producing data. They're all streaming data. They're reporting how they're operating. They're reporting to the maintenance center a part that's going to fail next week. They're reporting what's going on. They're managing our heating, ventilating, air conditioning, our security. And of course, that's just the small part, is what's going on in the home. There's much more data being created than we can possibly imagine. I could use some big numbers about quintillions of bytes and petabytes and terabytes and yottabytes and zottabytes, but the data construction figure that blows me away is a very simple one. Of all the data in the world that exists, all the data that exists in the world, 90% of it was created in the last 2 years. Think about what kind of a growth that reflects. That's mind-boggling, and that's what's happening. Well, where's all this data? Where's it coming from? Well, it's coming from all of us who are continuously streaming. Used to be you take a digital picture and you captured X amount of bytes of data and that was it. Now you take a picture with your iPhone and instantly, what happens? That data is on its way to iCloud. What happens when it gets to iCloud? It's on its way back down to your iPad and your iMac and your ThinkPad and your PC, all your devices. So we have this enormous effusion of data coming from GPS, location, latitudes and longitudes, traffic lights, hospitals. A baby in a NICU at the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto, Canada emits 1,000 readings per second about what's going on with that baby. So this amount of data is overwhelming, and it presents tremendous opportunities. More on that in a second. And then there's TV. And I was interested in some comments that were made by a speaker yesterday about this. We all have our perspective about it. My perspective is about the GUI, the graphical user interface, that we're all so used to on our iPhone or our iPad or our PC or our Mac. And then we have a GUI that is brought to us by our cable company. I can't dignify it by calling it a GUI. It is so archaic. But fortunately, we can control it with some devices. These are just a few. Most of us have many more than 3. But these 3 are the basics: Blu-ray, a cable box, and your TV. 151 buttons. Now, we all say the kids can do it. I don't think even a kid could figure this out. It is impossible. Does anybody think that Apple TV will have 3 of these things with it? Is it possible that we'll just, Siri, I'd like to watch the football game now? Yeah, you know which one. The one I always watch at this time of this part of the week. So we're going to see some really, really big changes ahead when it comes to this concept of always on. Wireless infusion, that's about infusion pumps. You know, in the hospital, there's little pumps with 3 wheels that every room has. They're hooked up to people that put fluid into people and medicines. You know what? Hospitals have